Hi everyone, this is Katrina Rasbold, the Gringa Bruja, here with another class, and today our topic is effective ritual construction. Now, Papa Bruja, Eric Rasbold, and I actually wrote a book called The Art of Ritual Crafting, and that covers some of these ideas, and this is kind of an update from that book since we wrote that several years ago. Some of our ideas about ritual have changed. We've learned more and done more, so this is an update for that, and is an important component for anyone who ever plans to work a magical process that is ritualized. And there are many paths out there that do involve ritual magic or ceremonialized magic. One of them is Wicca, one of them is Druidism. A lot of the alchemical type magical paths also involve a great deal of ceremony and are in fact called ceremonial magic. So we're going to be going over some of the primary components to effective ritual construction, things to keep in mind when you are planning a ritual for other people. We've all been to really terrible rituals, most likely, if you're listening to this, and I know that in the 35 years that I've lived a magical life, I've been to some horrible rituals that really could have had impact and done something if the leaders and the proponents who were working with this ritual had stopped to just step back and look at what they were doing a little bit. So a lot of this is going to be on what not to do, but also what to do. So take this to use for yourself if you ritualize your own magic, or again, specifically if you're going to be working with groups, I'm going to give you some things to consider. The first thing we're going to do is talk about magic itself. Now, when we go into any type of ritual, any magical ceremony, we are there to work magic. We are there to effect a change. When you go into ritual, your goal is that you and the people that you are bringing into the ritual with you should not leave the same person they were when they went in. There should be a change that happens within you because of the ritual, even the most minute changes. And so your goal when you go into ritual is something that Eric and I kind of laid out when we wrote Energy Magic some time back, and that was to say magic looks like make a generative and interesting change, M-A-G-I-C. When we go into ritual or any magical act, we should be doing it to, in some way, change our circumstances, change our situation. Even if that ritual is set up to honor a deity, if that ritual is set up to say thank you, we should change ourselves in the context of that ritual into a more grateful person. There should always be a goal to the ritual, and we should always be working for that goal to change the people in some positive way who are in attendance. And your change should be interesting. Otherwise, why do it? Your change should be generative. It should build upon what was created before. When we go into ritual, we engage on 3 levels. You engage yourself by giving your energy into the process, both before and during the ritual. You engage your group because they are seeing it and experiencing that ritual for the first time, where you have already experienced it in your mind, and you're engaging your gods, whatever higher power you seek to engage during the process of that ritual itself. So you've got 3 very important levels that you need to activate with any ritual that you undertake. Now, when you are working out your ritual in the preliminary phases before you're on the spot. Now, there are rituals you can do on the fly, truly, believe me, you can. But most of the time you're going to be planning things, and there is a checklist you want to look at so that you're very clear on what you're doing. And I call this the key concepts checklist. Number 1, know your group. Now, sometimes you're going to be having large public rituals, and in that case, you're not going to individually know everybody there, but just like with any, air quotes here, entertainment, if you want to call it that, or any public engagement, you need to know your audience. And in this case, your audience is the group you're working with. So if you are engaging a Christian group, you're probably not going to go in to this ritual experience and throw them for a loop by suddenly participating in a pagan ritual. It's important that it's okay to surprise your group here and there in a good way, but at the same time, you want to know your audience. You want to know your group. You want to know their expectations. You need to understand fully the needs that the people who are attending your ritual have in relation to the rite. And you need to understand the expectations that they're going to have. Now, I use the Christian analogy as an example, but most of the time we're talking about a group of magical practitioners who have created an expectation for the ritual they're going to. For instance, if we are going to a Samhain ritual and we're celebrating the close of the year, we're celebrating death, we're celebrating the ancestors, we're probably not going to be decorating eggs to Astara. We probably are not going to be doing activities to bring the light. We're going to be specific to the time of year and the type of celebration that we're having, the type of rite that we're having. So you want to tailor what you're doing somewhat to what your group expects. Now, like I said, it's okay to surprise them, but you should surprise them in the way that you meet their needs and expectations of that rite. Know your material. One of the most distracting things that happens in ritual is when the people who are putting on their ritual have to constantly check their script or read from the script. How many times have you been to a ritual where the person holds the script up in front of their face? You can't see their engagement with the divine. You can't see how the ritual's affecting them because they've got the script up in front of their faces. Now, I'm hardcore with my students. I don't have them use notes. I don't have them use scripts. Their rituals are channeled. I expect them to plug into deity and see what's there for them to draw on their experiences that they've been building up over their first level time, and then to be able to evoke the energy of the ritual into what they're doing, even if that is calling a quarter or describing what the celebration is about. So overall, try to create situations where you're not having to rely on a script other than just bullet points to glance down at, okay, now we're going to have the maypole, now we're going to jump the balefire, so that people are able to engage deity completely. Now, that does tend to put people on the spot. So if people do need to have a tiny little cheat sheet, that's one thing, but full scripts can be very distracting. As the group leader, it's very important that you remain open to channeling. Part of what your engagement is going to be is that you're going to engage your gods. Like we said on the trine, you're going to engage yourself, your gods, and your group. So when you are engaging the divine will speak to you when they are present in the ritual. And sure, all of us who have led rituals for a while have had times that we're not able to plug in well, that our energy's a little bit off, but we're still obligated to follow through with the ritual. And we get in there and I got nothing. And usually what happens is that you have enough experience that you can wing it at that time if you need to. But make sure you take your time and open to channel. If you are new at this, the emphasis is on take your time. When I send my students out there without a script into a ritual, I tell them as long as it takes is how long it takes. Stand there, engage with your element, engage with your gods, engage with whatever you're bringing in, and channel that down. But you, as the group leader especially, should be open to all divine messages and guidance that you get so that you can spontaneously share the divine messages as they come along. It's important that you remain flexible throughout the entirety of the ritual, from the time you first start to plan it until the last person goes home and it's all cleared away. You should be able to adapt very quickly, whether it's to certain circumstances like a weather change or suddenly you're infiltrated by Boy Scouts or whatever it might be that's creating a different set of circumstances than what you expected, or if you screw up. You know, if you forget to close a gate or you forget to call down the gods or whatever it might be and you screw up, own that. You don't have to stumble and fall in order to do that. Just acknowledge it or fix it if you can, but keep moving on. The most important thing is adapt to a change in circumstances and keep moving forward. Don't get so caught up in any errors or complications that come up that it detracts from the energy of the circle. Make sure that you fully engage, and I mean fully engage on all of those 3 levels. Fully engage with your group, fully engage with your gods, and fully engage yourself. Do not half-ass it. The people who have come to this ritual and honored you with their presence deserve everything you've got. So be fully connected to your purpose of the ritual. Spend your time in advance of the ritual really being clear on what this ritual is about, and then fully engage that purpose. Fully engage with the people around you. Make eye contact. Make sure they're comfortable. Look at them. See how they're doing. Watch their energy flow throughout the group. Redirect the energy. If there are black holes in the group that are sucking up all the group's energy. Really engage with your gods fully. Feel the presence of what you're invoking. Feel the presence of the energy of the celebration. Really engage it. Take away your ego. This is not just your ritual, and we do that. We're like, I'm going to Celeste's ritual out at Briar Park. We're going to Celeste's ritual. Let's go to Celeste's ritual. It'll be great. No, it is the ritual that is being hosted by Celeste, for instance, but it's not just Celeste's ritual. It's important with ego that you not have this be your moment in the sun. Don't have this be your moment to shine. Don't have this be your ego, you on the throne as king for a day or queen for a day. No. Now you can invoke the goddess, you can shine, you can be radiant, but that happens as a result of engagement on all of those 3 levels. Remember your trine. This ritual belongs as much to the group and as much to your gods as it does to you. So everything should be equally represented. Your ego should not be the biggest thing in the room. And we all know people who struggle with that problem when they are hosting a ritual. Next thing is you absolutely should connect with your group on 3 different levels as well. Connect to your group and connect them to the ritual through mind, through body, and through spirit. When you're connecting through the mind, as we said, it's important that you meet the expectations of your group. And that involves knowing the expectations of the group. Making sure that you have a pretty good idea what they're looking for when they go in there, and kabal, you meet it in spades and you ace what they're looking for. Don't have them walking out of there wondering what the hell just happened. Keep them engaged through the meeting of their expectations. Also, keep the ritual relevant. Don't start rambling about stories that happened this week and not draw them into the message that you're trying to convey. Keep the ritual relevant to the purpose of the day. Another one, a good one, this is a Phaedra Bonwitz statement that I love. Reach, don't preach. Reach your people. Connect with your people, but don't stand up there and preach to them. Don't deliver amazing eulogies. Don't talk in a monologue forever and ever and ever in your ritual. It will make them crazy. Their minds will start to wander, and that leads us to the next one of keeping them engaged. Don't make your people, your participants, have to work hard to stay engaged. Don't make them have to work hard to listen and hear you and feel what you're doing. If you are just talking and talking and talking, or you're doing the same chant on and on and on and on, you're going to lose them. Keep your participants engaged. Don't stand there and lecture them about how the world should be for hours on end. Keep your ritual moving, keep it active, and keep it going. And that brings us to the next part, which is engaging the body. First of all, back to knowing your group, consider any physical challenge that any of the participants have. There are some people that have a hard time navigating unsteady ground. And so if you've got a lot of holes or hills or valleys in the place where you're working, you want to make sure you let them know. You want to make sure to make arrangements for them to be able to walk safely or to move safely within the group. If you're doing dancing or some type of lively activity like fire jumping during the ritual, make sure that you have made accommodations for the people in the group who are physically challenged. If your ritual is going to take a little while, make sure the people people who are going to have trouble standing for a long period of time, have chairs available and make sure they know that, hey, this one's going to go on for a bit. And in that theme for anybody, you want to avoid long periods of standing. And usually 90 minutes, for instance, is a very long time for a person to stand in one place, even a very healthy, strong person. It's also a long time to keep people actively engaged in ritual. You want to be able to not have their minds drifting away because this ritual is taking forever. So the average ritual should be, I prefer between 30 and 60 minutes at the most, and that's with a lot. 30 minutes if you're standing in one place, 60 minutes if you've got to move it around a good bit. An hour and a half if you absolutely have to, but that's a really, really long time. And again, make certain that your area is safe for movement for everybody. If you're going to be moving the circle around, and hopefully you are going to be having them engage physically, make sure that there's no glass in the area. Make sure that that any holes are identified and that it's safe for people to walk around. Always consider the weather and the climate. You might start out in the shade, but partway through the ritual, half of your people are getting sunburned. So pay attention to what the weather's doing, what the climate's doing. Also, if it's very, very cold, it's difficult for people to stay engaged because they're trying not to freeze to death. Basically, and again, I've got to go back to Phaedra Bonewitz, make it easy for your participants to hold the field, as she calls it. Holding the field means standing passively but engaging actively. So you're able to listen and engage and keep your part of the energy flowing. That is the most important thing, is to make it easy for them to do that so they're not having to work to support your ritual. When we are moving on to the spirit component, you want to make sure that you're activating the spiritual purpose of the ritual. Your ritual is there to enhance the spirit and make a generative and interesting change on some level. So make sure that you're doing things to reinforce the spiritual purpose of the ritual and to activate that feeling of that purpose within each person in your group. You also want to provide a meaningful transition to that state, and that usually involves having them do something with you to take them to the place of connecting with that. For instance, weaving a web, having a cone of power, again, jumping the fire. There are a number of activities that you can do that can connect them to the purpose of the ritual. And you always want to remember that people engage and remember more if they're doing than if you're telling. You can tell them what you're doing, you can explain what the time is about and the celebration is about, but have them doing something so that they are actively participating in the ritual, and that will help to engage them more deeply on a spiritual level. So what are the components of an effective ritual? And this is what you would do starting out. The first thing is you're going to prepare the ritual area. You're going to not only set it up with your altar and any props that you're using, but you're also going to consecrate and bless the area. Smudge it out. Get it nice and clean. Use incense to bring a sacred and holy energy into the area. You can, of course, just go out on the fly and set up ritual, but it's always best if you're going to prepare that area and make it a sacred space. You want to consider what the people in the group will see, what they'll smell, and what they'll hear. And you want to remove any distractions, and you want to add ambience. So as far as what they see, make sure if you're inside, that there's not clutter all over the room to distract them. If you're outside, make sure there's not big barrels of trash everywhere, things that are going to catch the eye and cause them not to focus on you. Watch for smells. Make sure you have pleasant smells and smells that people associate with ritual, like the burning sage and the incense and that sort of thing. But also make sure if you're inside that they're not having their eyes water from your cat box, or that the area doesn't smell like trash. Make sure that everything they see, smell, and hear adds to the ritual rather than detracting from their attention. Another thing is, as far as what they hear, animals that are just dogs barking, car alarms going off. All of these things are are distractions that can cause the people to lose their attention with the ritual itself. You want to have a definite signal to the start of the ritual so that everybody knows it's beginning. I like a soft start and then a definite start. And the soft start is I will send my herald out to begin getting people lined up, getting them to chant, getting them focused on the ritual that is to come, so they're not talking about what happened at the store the other day, so that they're not giggling about this thing and that thing, so that they're getting focused on the ritual and starting to tune into the energy of the ritual. Then we have the hard start, which is when we start to process into the ritual area and the ritual begins. So you want to let everybody know, hey, we're going to start lining up in 5 minutes. Everybody needs to start grounding and centering. Okay, now we're going to start chanting and processing into the area. You want to establish a group focus and a group mind, and I call this herding the cats. This is getting everybody's attention on the same thing, which is the purpose of your ritual. You can do that through chanting and singing. You can do that, as I mentioned before, through the processing into the ritual area. Usually gets people pretty solemn. Through joining hands, eye-to-eye contact, group visualization if you want to lead a short meditation for people to get centered on what they're supposed to be doing. And in some groups, the casting of the circle actually brings everybody together. For us, if we're out in public, we will do a formalized casting with the sword, which gives us a little ring of protection, but we also do a hand-to-hand casting, which connects us with each of the people in the group on an energetic level. You always want to give your group a statement of purpose, and this is just courtesy, because what it does is it says we're going to be raising a hoop of energy in this group or in this ritual. Here's what I'm going to do with your energy. Here is where I'm going to be directing your energy. You should always be clear with your intention when you're starting the ritual and say, today we're here to honor the first harvest. Today we are here to welcome the sun. Make sure you tell them exactly what you're doing so that they know where their energy will be utilized. Everybody there is lending energy, and everybody there deserves to know where that energy is going and how it's going to be used. The next thing you want to do is you want to connect to the natural expressions of divine energy. These are the ways that divinity manifests here on earth. Now, one thing that you can do is recreate the cosmos, as it's called. Definitely Google that. It's a wonderful process that ADF uses. You can call the quarters. You can honor the elements. There are many ways that you can connect to the godlike expressions here on earth. We use the familiar, the known, earth, air, fire, water as relatable expressions of deity, and this opens the door for us to connect with the more unformed expressions of deity. You want to then engage any of your deities and your kindred spirits that you're going to use. This includes your gatekeepers, any of your liaisons to the other worlds, your protectors. You want to welcome them, acknowledge them, engage them. This can be even as simple as the Earth Mother or the nature spirits or any patron gods that you use. At this time, you'll put in any workings you're going to do. You'll usually want to build energy in some way and release it out toward the purpose, even if that purpose is gratitude, or that purpose is honoring the season. You'll make any offerings that you're going to make during this time. Some people like to make offerings to their gods, such as wine or whiskey or oats or barley. Some people will do a blood offering to cut their finger and drip it onto the altar or whatever it might be. And this all comes back to the nature of sacrifice. A lot of people really misunderstand sacrifice. And to them, they say, well, I'm just going to sacrifice my time. Sacrifice to the gods is all about what it means to you and what is dear to you. And so when you sacrifice something to the gods, it should be something that's worth giving. Don't half-ass this either. So if you're going to make a sacrifice, make a genuine sacrifice, not necessarily cutting off a chicken's head, but actually coming forward and giving something that you care about. An example that the Archdruid of ADF, John Drum, mentioned one time is he was working in a prison, and he was missing a component of the ritual that was going to be an offering. I've got to be honest, I don't remember, it was bread or oatmeal or something like that they provided to him when they saw that he didn't have it, and he realized how much dearer this was to them than it was to him, and that they had made a tremendous sacrifice in taking care of that for him. So it's very important that when you make a sacrifice, that it's a genuine sacrifice and not a half-assed sacrifice. Again, don't go out killing sheep or necessarily or anything like that. In this picture, I don't think that's why all those crows are around her. They're not going to their bitter end or anything. But if you're going to offer something, be meaningful about it. Ask for any blessings you want to receive from the deity that you've engaged. You can do divinations to say, is the offering received? Do you have any additional guidance or instruction in the situation? And then reflect on the oracle guidance you've received if you did any. The next thing you want to do, then that's all comes under your workings. Say thank you. Always say thank you. Thank you for honoring us by being in our circle today. Earth, air, fire, and water, thank you for all you give us throughout our lives. Say thank you, and then close the ritual. You close the ritual by taking up any circles that you've cast after you've thanked all the beings that you've invited in there, and then you provide guidance for the exit. And that means that once you've dropped the circle, you let everybody know, we're going to exit out this area right here by the guardian or right here by the gate. We're going to go over and have our feast now, or I want you to please go over and walk through the earth labyrinth. Direct them to what you want them to do next. And you can even say things like, we don't leave the altar area open after everyone has left, or you're welcome to come back and meditate at the altar. Let them know what your expectations for them are, and then you close the ritual and you're done. So these are some of the components to hosting a ritual, and you can also tailor these down a little bit when you do rituals for yourself. For example, if we go back over all of these, not the whole thing, but just a little bit very briefly to recap, think about this on a solitary level. Engage yourself. Engage your group, meaning yourself, mind, body, and spirit, and engage your gods. Know what you want from the ritual. Know the material you're going to use. Open to channel. Be flexible. Engage on all levels. When you're even by yourself, don't be egotistical, and connect with yourself deeply through mind, body, and spirit. Meet the expectations you have for the ritual. Keep the ritual relevant to you. Keep you can preach to yourself if you want to. Keep yourself engaged so that you don't get bored in your own ritual. Body. Make sure you're comfortable in ritual. Make sure the area is safe for you. And make sure, again, that you're staying engaged. Activate the spiritual purpose of the ritual within yourself. Provide a meaningful transition to that state for yourself. And in all of these, you can follow all of these components of effective ritual yourself in your own rituals. So I hope this helps give you an idea of how to build an effective ritual for yourself and others. There's more information in our book called The Art of Ritual Crafting, which you can find on Amazon.com, and I'll put the links in the comments. And I look forward to hearing any suggestions or ideas or thoughts about how you build effective ritual. Thanks for being here.